Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your host, U.S. Air Force veteran Donna Hoffmeyer, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as we'll bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your host, Donna Hoffmeyer.
Hey everyone, it's Donna, back again with another awesome episode of Beyond the Frontline. And we're doing a part 2. Well, actually, we're doing the second in a series of 3 with Elizabeth Long. And if you guys don't know who Elizabeth Long is, you need to go back to our first episode with her when we actually talked about tips for veterans when it came to home buying. So Elizabeth is actually a realtor with Exit Realty in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And her division is Fidelis Homes. And she's just starting a new program within Exit Realty. And it's a division of agents in Exit that are going to specialize in veterans, teachers, and first responders, which is something very unique. I don't know if it exists anywhere else, but it definitely doesn't exist where they are. And she saw a need and she decided that she was going to do something about it and create this division. So she's a very unique person. I love her to death. I actually met her when we were doing live stream for our Hero Stock concert series that happened this year. And she was at a table next to ours in Lebanon. And we started talking. And what I loved about Elizabeth was her passion. And she really sincerely just wanted to help veterans. She comes from a long line of veterans. She's not a veteran herself, but she has a whole family history there. And so I said, hey, you know what? I think we should do a podcast. And she was like, heck yeah, let's do it. So we did the first one. And like I told you, it was all about tips on buying a home for veterans, tips for veterans. And now we decided that we're going to talk about tips for realtors that want to work with veterans. What do they need to know about educating their veterans? Because there's some things that you probably wouldn't even think about. So Elizabeth is here to educate. Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Thank you for having me on, Donna.
I like having you on. We talked probably like 45 minutes before this about everything else.
Oh, we did.
So today we are going to talk about tips for the realtor, which I think is just a fascinating idea that I've never really seen that done, is like, hey, let's talk about the education for the realtors that want to start engaging with the veterans. And in your case, teachers and first responders. But veterans have different nuances than even the teacher and first responder population in regards to our benefits and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm going to let you kind of take the wheel here and
Okay.
Where do we start?
Okay. So, yeah, this is really for those realtors out there who want to branch out into serving veterans. They may have served veterans in the past, which is great. But like you said, there are some additional details when working with veterans, specifically regarding the VA loan. And, you know, a lot of veterans are constantly moving, whether they're getting deployed or going from one base to the next. And, you know, there's a lot involved with just veterans, let alone first responders and teachers. They have their own needs. But veterans are really a unique population with some very unique needs in terms of housing and lending. So for those realtors who really want to serve them best, there are some things that I would recommend that they do and knowledge that they receive so that they make sure that they are helping that veteran maximize their benefits.
And I'll tell you, before you get started on that, I had an experience, and this was just refinancing, and I was referred to, a friend of mine was a realtor, and actually this was with the lending brokerage, right, that they were going to do the refinancing. And the long and short of it is that there was somebody in there that knew about VA loans, but it wasn't the person that I was working with. And she
Mhm.
was very kind, but she kept trying to handle it because the person that did have the knowledge was out for a week or so, right? And it caused all kinds of issues. She did not know her
Mhm.
information. I happened to know stuff. She was trying to charge me things for things that I should not have been charged for. And when I brought it up, she readily looked into it and corrected it. It wasn't a problem. But it was
Yeah.
just that if I didn't know and if I hadn't researched it, and then I was getting frustrated. And then finally, when she moved me to the right person, everything kind of smoothed out. But for
Yeah.
a couple of weeks, it was very frustrating trying to work with her because I'm like, what is she doing? Is she trying to scam me or what's going on? And it was just because she
Yeah.
didn't have the knowledge. So,
Yeah. She was probably just trying to do her
yes.
best, but you do have to know when to say, I don't know, and
Or let me look
find
into
somebody
it.
who does
Yeah.
it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there's so many intricacies to the VA loan. It's just amazing. I just got done with from coming back from St. Louis on a 2 whole day, like from when was it? 8 or 9 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, solid, bam, 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 all day long for 2 whole days about veteran home ownership. And the
Wow.
majority of it was about the VA loan. So there's so much to know. So you can't fault anybody for not knowing one little piece of information, but as long as they say, hey, I don't know this, I'm going to double check and find the proper resource. But the thing is that the majority of veterans don't know enough about their own benefit of the VA loan to even ask a lot of the questions.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. So that's why it's so very important to educate veterans, of course, but also realtors and lenders so that they are doing the best for that veteran when they're setting them up with a VA loan and looking for the right house for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah, understanding VA loans is top of the list. That's number one.
Number one, understand
Understanding VA
it.
loans. Yes, understand it as much as you can. Now, obviously, lenders, even lenders who specialize in the VA loan, there's always something more to learn. Always. So my number one tip for realtors is just constantly learn. Go to every VA loan class you can possibly go to.
Yeah.
Be a member of the Veteran Housing Advisors. There's a Facebook group that you can join. And that right there is a wealth of knowledge because, people will post all the time questions that they have, and other people who know the answer will answer them. And it's a whole collaborative group. So it's a huge amount of information right there. And then there is a course that you can take for realtors. It's fairly new, Veteran Housing Advisor, which I'm signed up to take. Right after I got done with this 2-day workshop, I'm signing up for this housing advisor course because that will just solidify all the information I was just exposed to in those 2 days in my brain because I feel overloaded now.
Gonna process all that info.
I do. I've got to process all the info myself. But so yeah, go to as many classes as you can. If you have a VA rep chapter near you, become a member. VA rep is Veteran Association of Real Estate Professionals. There are chapters all over the country and more being formed. I'm part of the new Nashville chapter of VA rep here in the Nashville area. And it is a fantastic resource of real estate professionals and lenders collaborating together just to educate each other and to advocate for veterans on home ownership, on lending, VA loan, passing bills that benefit veterans.
Oh,
I'm on
wow.
the Government Affairs Committee. So our goal is to work with politicians and let them know about some of the things that veterans are experiencing and saying, look, you need to pass this because this will help them in a nutshell. So if you can find a VA rep chapter near you, absolutely become a part of it. You'll find a wealth of knowledge there. It's a requirement for Nashville or for national chapters of VA rep for 5 out of the 8 board members to be veterans. So it's very strong, veteran community. And so you're gonna hear directly from veterans and what they have experienced in service and when they come out of service. So understand those VA loans. When you come across a veteran who is asking about home ownership, top 3 questions to ask: are you a veteran? That's pretty obvious. But also, is your spouse a veteran? Or, if they weren't a veteran themselves, were they married to a veteran who maybe passed away? Because they are also eligible for the VA loan. So don't just ask, are you a veteran? Ask, are you a veteran, or are you a spouse of a veteran? Because a lot of times the spouses won't even think about it. They won't even consider that they could qualify for a VA loan themselves.
Right. They just think it's all for the veteran, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then the second question is, are you entitled to disability from the VA? That's an important one. It seems to me that a lot of veterans won't even try to get disability. They're too hard-headed. They're like, oh, there's so many other, veterans who, got worse injuries than I did. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to bog down the system, or, I don't deserve that disability.
Some are angry. Some are angry at the military and they don't want anything to do with it. And so they'll be like, no, thank you. I've dealt with enough. So they don't want to deal with that red tape and all that other stuff. Yeah.
Right. And I can totally understand that, because that, sometimes it does take a long time, and it takes patience, which not a lot of people have. And you have to be persistent, which really sucks, because, if you've got a service related disability, you've been through a lot already. And now you have to hound the government to recognize that you've got a disability, which is stupid. But unfortunately, that's how it is. But I highly recommend being persistent and getting that disability rating, because you are in that service. You deserve to have that recognition.
Does it impact for your loan? Does it help you with percentage points or anything like that?
Well, so just for example, if you have just a 10% disability rating, you do not have to pay the funding fee on a VA loan.
Oh.
So, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So, if you have no disability rating, you have a funding fee, which basically helps, fund the backing that the government has for the VA loan. So the government, the U.S. government does not provide you money or provide that loan for you. There's a little bit of misunderstanding there. The government backs 25% of that loan amount. So let's say you go to ABC Lender, and ABC Lender is doing your VA loan. That ABC Lender, they're the ones who are providing the money for the VA loan. It's the U.S. government that is going to say, hey, we're going to back that VA loan up to 25% of that loan in case it defaults or you foreclose. Right. And basically that's just telling that ABC lender, hey, we're going to back this veteran up. But they still need some funding to be able to do that. So if you have that disability rating, you don't have to worry about a funding fee. With the VA loan, you've got 100% loan to value ratio, which means you're not going to have to put anything down, no down payment, which is huge.
That is huge.
Absolutely huge. Now you can put a down payment, of course, if you want to. Absolutely, you're right. You're privileged. Talk to your lender and have them crunch those numbers for you. But you are not required to put any kind of down payment down. And with that being said, I want to point out some realtors, let's say they're a listing agent and a veteran buyer comes in with a VA loan, and that seller of the house or the listing agent might look at that VA loan and go, oh, they're not putting any money down on this loan. They've got no skin in the game, which is bullshit, right?
Right. It's like crap. Yeah,
they served in the military.
Yeah. We got lots of
Talk
skin.
about having skin in the game, right?
It's been rubbed raw a couple times.
Yeah. might have been just ripped right off there. That's one big misconception is, or like a wrong way to think about it really, is a listing agent or seller going, okay, well, how strong is this offer if somebody's coming in with a VA loan and they don't have any money down? They're using the benefit that they deserve and that they have earned. And honestly, the majority of veterans purchasing homes are in a much better financial position than the average person. So just because of the loan itself, not having, money down has nothing to do with how strong that offer is.
Yeah.
It's usually a very strong offer. Yeah. So that's, if out of anything, I want listing agents and sellers to know that VA loans are very strong offers, and not to just toss them out the door because they have no money down.
Watch your
on a down payment.
bias.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I could go down at, all kinds of details on the VA loan, but that's up to the realtor. If you care enough about it, you're going to learn it.
Right.
So attend all the classes and learn about that VA loan. The second one is build a network with veteran organizations. You've got to connect with those local organizations, whether it's the VFW, American Legion, support groups, nonprofits. I mean, anywhere you go, there's an amazing number of nonprofits that support veterans. I've been just really pleasantly surprised when I started out in real estate, and I delved right into the veteran community. First off, just realizing how many nonprofits are out there that serve veterans. So build that network, just start talking to people, and you'll find out where those are. People will, people know you start talking to veterans. They know other veterans. They know about nonprofits. So start making that network and making genuine connections with the people involved in those nonprofits. Find out how you can help. Don't ask how they can help you as a realtor. Ask how you can help, because that's coming out of you've got to come out of a genuine place, or they'll sniff it right out.
Well, yeah,
So,
very good point. Like you have to know what you're putting first, the relationship before any sales. That will come later once you build that authentic relationship, but they'll smell it.
Absolutely.
Right? Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got to reach out to those organizations and truly want to benefit those organizations and volunteer for them.
Yep.
So don't spread yourself too thin so that you're just kind of hit and miss everything, so that you can quote unquote reach the most amount of people, because that will be obvious too. So pick a few that you really like and go all in. Number 3 is develop cultural competence. So learn about the military culture and values. So, as a civilian, I don't claim to know anything about the intricate military culture whatsoever, but I can respect that there is one, and I want to learn more about it. I don't think I can ever truly know what it's like. I couldn't possibly, unless I had been through what veterans have gone through, but I can listen. And so I volunteer for the local VFW post 12206 in Murfreesboro. I do their digital magazine. So their officers provide me material every month, and I use Canva, and I put in a fun format, and we have resources and events and other nonprofit links that they can go to. We highlight a member every month, and we highlight a veteran-owned business every month, and I turn that into a digital magazine.
That's awesome.
And I do the same thing for District 5, which is all 10 posts in this area. And so I've learned a lot, maybe just tip of the iceberg really, but I feel a lot about the military culture just by doing those things, because I'm I go to the beginning of the VFW meetings, and they talk about various things. And of course, sometimes they might allude to, their service, or there's some dark humor that gets thrown out, which I absolutely love.
Plenty of that.
Oh yeah, plenty of that. You got to have that. In fact, we're gonna start a little section in our magazine, some dark humor, because they asked that a couple meetings ago, and so I thought about it for a couple of months, And so at this last meeting, I'm like, you know what? I need your help on this because I don't know what to put in here.
Right,
Like
right.
I need you all to tell me, what are some things that I need to put in here? I
We
need
need
some
your
dark humor.
flavor. Yeah, your flavor, dark humor, right?
Exactly, exactly. I can't possibly come up with it on my own. So just learning some of that culture. Just go to coffee with a veteran. We have that every Sunday mornings at a restaurant here in Murfreesboro. A bunch of veterans just come and they sit and chat and have coffee, and anybody is welcome to come,
Hmm.
civilian or veteran, and have coffee with them and just sit and listen, listen to what they have to say, whether it's about their military service or not. That's just them as a person. That's really appreciated. And so you just learn a whole lot about that. And then of course I've gone online and just looked up, okay, what are all the military ranks? Like how the heck does that work? Because and each branch is different. It's hard to keep track of all
Yeah,
of
none of us still know what the Navy's rank is yet. We gave up. We just
that. Right.
somebody saluting somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to keep track of, across the branches, like who's who and what's ranked. So I'm still working on that. But just, make an effort to know about their way of life
Yeah.
makes a huge difference. Yeah, just making an effort. Tip 4, other specialized resources. So providing guides and resources specifically for veterans that shows that you're making an effort, you're putting work into it. So, I'm working on coming out with specific posts on whether it be Facebook or a newsletter to my veteran clients, little tidbits about the VA loan, or when you're looking at a house, what to consider. If you're house hunting and you come across a house that has some rotted wood on the deck, for example, that is something just that I make as a realtor mental note. We're going to have that fixed. It's not a huge fix. It's not something that's going to deter the seller or the buyer either way. As long as, if the whole deck is rotted, that's a different story.
Right.
But if there's one or two boards that, have rotted wood, the VA is going to require you to fix that. But that's not a big deal. So just providing that information. Again, I'm going back to you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm currently working on a plan on how to map out some of those posts specifically for veterans to give them little tidbits of information because there's so much out there.
Well, I was say we two things we like. We like bite
Yeah.
size because we're all bottom
Yeah.
line, and we like checklist. Tell me
Gotcha.
what
Yeah.
to do. Like check it off to get me to good. Because
Yes. Yes. Okay.
in the reality, we don't want to be an expert in the VA loan home buying. Like, there's very few of us that want to learn
No,
that.
there's no need for that, but
Right,
you do need to know what questions to ask a lender.
right. What is the
Yeah.
things? What is the bottom line stuff? We like checklists and we like bite size. Make a
Yes.
bite size
So
checklist.
good point. Yeah. So good point. Checklist on questions to ask a lender. I mean, one of the things is, how many VA loans has a lender done? You can ask that. That'll, if they've done two, I mean, maybe they, did a really great job on those two VA loans. Or maybe they've done, 45.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with that approach, right? So if you've done two, but you were the person that was like finding the answers, getting in there, making sure all
Mm-hmm.
the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, I'd go back. I'd readily usually because you're meticulous in
Yeah.
your work. You could do 45, and I hear 5 different people go, "My God, it was a nightmare." I'll go take the too meticulous person. Thank you.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, just asking how many you've done, I mean, it gives you a little bit of
Yeah,
insight.
exactly.
But if you give them if you ask them an open-ended question, like, tell me some details about the last VA loan you did and some issues that you came across. That's an open-ended question, then that lender can fill in the gaps in the information and tell you what they did to make sure that transaction was successful.
Do they ask, is it a fair question to say, do you have any people that have done loans through you or bought a house through you? Like, do you have any referrals, like people I could talk to? Is that a fair
Well, sure,
question?
that's a fair question.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the lender will have to ask their clients, hey, do you mind if I give out your information, of course. But yeah, that's a fair question.
Okay.
Yeah, because it matters who you do business with.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So whether it's the client doing business with a lender or client doing business with a real estate agent, but also real estate agent to lender.
Yeah.
It matters who they do business with. And if there's not that really good communication between the lender and the realtor, it's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Because even if both individually know what they're doing and are knowledgeable, if they don't communicate with each other, it can really complicate things. So I have been really, really lucky and fortunate to have worked with lenders who are excellent communicators. And that makes all the difference in my business, but also for my clients. And there's a whole lot behind the scenes that clients don't know about, like what we do to make sure that something does not happen that would mess things up. You know, we do a lot of proactive work in our work, so that, for example, if we see, you know, something on the home that might need to be fixed in order for the appraiser to come in and approve it, you know, have a successful appraisal, we'll talk with the listing agent. If I'm the buyer agent, we'll talk with the listing agent on the front end and go, okay, here's a couple of things that they're fairly minor that we would like to have fixed. We're not trying to be nitpicky, but we're wanting to make sure that everything runs smoothly and that we don't have to come out a second time with the appraiser and, you know, interrupt your client's schedule at the home or whatever that looks like. And also, that's an additional fee if the appraiser has to come out a second time. Say something wasn't fixed on the front end when they first come out, they're not going to, you know, approve that until it gets fixed. So we'll just be clear on the front end. Hey, these are things that need to be fixed. We're not trying to be really picky, but we also don't want to have the appraiser have to come out a second time. So it helps them, helps us, helps everybody.
So essentially, we're just telling these realtors, have good relationships with these brokerage, have good communication skills with both sides, and have some emotional intelligence in this, as in, like, would you want to pay for a second one? Like, I wouldn't.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Donna. Emotional intelligence. Because again, I've been fortunate to work with some really great lenders and other real estate agents. Every once in a while, you'll come across an agent who feels like they have to kind of look cool in front of their clients, or like they're Billy Badass, you know, in front of their clients for whatever reason. I'm not sure. That doesn't help anybody.
No.
You know, that actually kind of makes their clients more on edge if they see their real estate agent kind of puffing up and feeling defensive, as opposed to just laying out bottom line, being transparent, saying, okay, we had a little snag. Here's what we're going to do about it. And here's why. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
You know, it does not need to get all emotional. That just mires everything up and gets everybody riled up. And they lose focus of what the end result is that everybody wants, which is a successful transaction. And everybody working together for that. And there might be a little bit of compromise here and there, but bottom line is everybody wants to be happy and have a good transaction.
Everybody gets something out of this,
Yeah. So emotional intelligence, that's a huge part of being a good real estate agent and having successful transactions, is being able to manage your own emotions and being able to manage your client's emotions.
Yes.
Emotions can run really high when it comes to large purchases.
Heck yeah.
Or the possibility of fixing large purchases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in the big picture, like, let's just say that the porch, I don't know, let's say 5 or 6 boards need to be replaced out of it. And if you hire somebody, I'm just going to make it up, but let's just say it costs $1,000 to do that. Because wood's really expensive right now.
It is. That's true. Yeah. It is.
So from a realtor standpoint, in the big picture, drop in the bucket, right? Just a quick fix and all that. But to the person that's already, like, has a lot of other things going on, that $1,000 could be crushing to them. You know, like, I don't have that kind of money. It's true. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you're selling your house and you're moving somewhere else, you know, you're also a buyer. That seller is also a buyer because they're buying another house. They need to sell their house most of the time. in order to purchase that second house,
Yeah.
they need funds, for that second house. They have moving expenses. They've got to set up utilities again, just like everybody else. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they often will have a whole lot of expenses. And then when you start adding on some potential repairs, that stress level goes up and up and up.
And don't assume, this is for the realtors here that we're talking about, don't assume
Yeah.
that because we don't pay for our move that it's not costly. Because
Right.
just because we have movers that move our stuff, we still have bills that we have to handle, and we're in transit, right? So we still have to, I don't know, pick up another daycare. Maybe our wife or
Right.
husband is not working right now, and they have to go find a job. So we just lost an entire income for 6 months, 8 months, a year, who knows. Kids still need childcare. There's just all these things that, yes, not paying for the actual move, and thank goodness, but we
Mm-hmm.
still have bills, and a vast majority of the military is not rocking in the dollars.
Right.
We've got a lot of airmen and sergeants and, that are not rolling in the dough. So that $1,000 could be a game changer for them. I mean, that might be
Yeah.
boring the fence to go fix that, like, heck no. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway. All right. What's number
So yeah,
5?
put on your counselor hat.
That's right.
Yeah. Tip number 5 is create a veteran friendly marketing strategy.
Mm.
So, you might have some really good tips for me on this one, actually.
Well,
Um,
I don't know if you're going to say this in the other 4. I'm going to throw it out there because it fits into all of these, but you were talking about, like, it kind of goes under the strategy when you're asking these questions and trying to find out about the veteran stuff.
mhm.
Ask if they've bought a house before, no matter what age. Don't the 20-year-old you could assume may have never bought a
Yeah,
house before, but can you imagine that the 45-year-old may have never bought a house before either?
absolutely. You're right. Yeah. Yep. Some 45-year-olds have just never bought a house before.
Never had to,
Yeah. Yeah.
rent or
Absolutely.
yeah, live on base or yeah.
Right. Yeah. Skipping all over the place and just never thought that it would make sense for them. And that's when having a good realtor who asks the veteran questions is really essential, because let's say a veteran is kind of skipping around, is only going to be in a location for 1 or 2 years, so they may figure, well, it's just not worth it to buy a house, I'm just going to rent.
Right.
Well, depending on the area, it might make sense for them to find a specific type of home or a townhome even. Again, depending on the market area, it might make sense for them. They can use their VA loan to purchase, and having a good realtor who analyzes that market and maybe says, look, this would be a really good rental for when you have to move again. You can rent that home out when you do have to move, then somebody else is paying your loan for you, and then you can buy another home. So that's another misconception, is you can have more than one VA loan at a time, FYI.
Right.
It's all based on the amount of entitlement you have, which is a little rabbit hole.
Well, we talked about that in the first episode, right? We talked about in the first of the series.
Yeah.
So we can go back and
Yeah.
listen to that on that one. But yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a rabbit hole, not a huge one, but the bottom line is you can have more than one VA loan at a time. You can have rental properties. Now, there's a rule that you have to, live in that rental. If it's a brand new one, you have to live in that for at least a year before you then move, to another home, and you have to live in that home. You can't just buy rental properties and live somewhere else. But you can do very well in real estate utilizing that VA loan. So talk to a real estate agent and a lender and find out how to do that. So that goes back to marketing. You got to market to veterans and let them know about things that they don't know. A lot of them don't know that. They don't know.
And I think it's a fine,
like that.
Like there's a fine line. They're not stupid, right? Don't insult their intelligence, but don't assume that they, to say like, hey, have you ever bought a house before? Like, yes or no. I was like, it's not a big deal.
It's just a simple question.
It just
Yeah.
helps me know better how to navigate. Or, hey, if you know this info, feel free to, say you understand. I'm going to get into things a little deeper to help you out. We appreciate that very much so.
Yeah. Very simple questions. Yes or no, then move on.
Yep.
And that's just you're establishing a base from which to go. Yeah. Tip number 6, stay informed of market trends. That goes back to what I was just talking about. It really depends on that veteran situation. Are they going to be there for a long time? Do they know that they're going to stay put for 5 years or whatever it is? Well, that's going to tell you then what kind of house you can be looking for, if they're going to be staying in it for a long time, or if they already know that it's only going to be 1 or 2 years, or maybe they don't know at all. So you adjust your approach with the veteran and the type of home that they're looking at. Each individual is going to be different on the type of home that you're helping them look for.
Well, and you make a good point, like the transient part of us, right? So typically we're somewhere in a location 3 to 4 years. Trust me, there's people that have homestead for 10 plus years, but I'm just saying the big picture, the majority are moving every 3 to 4 years or 3 to 5 years or whatnot. And to know the trends, because I'll tell you, this happened to a friend that they moved here to Texas from where they were at a time that we were in the frenzy. So we had this 2-year frenzy, and we're not picking on California. It's just what happened. But all California came moving in, and it became the it spot for like 2 straight years. And I mean, my friends that are realtors are like, "Oh, Donna, you can sell your house, and you could get $50,000 over asking price." And I'm like, "Yeah," and then I gotta pay a lot more for a new place. Like, I'm not really interested in that. Like, we know, but we're just telling you in case you change your mind. Great. I appreciate it. Just informed decision making. But they did not have a choice when they moved here. And the realtor said, like, you're going to pay over asking price. Just be aware of that. And then guess what happened? 4 years, they were here for 3 years, I think. And the market went back to normal, still higher, but the frenzy came over. And their house is below what they paid for it because they paid over the asking price. So they worked with their realtor and they opted to rent it. The realtor said, if you just rent it for now and let the value go up, you will eventually reach that or get closer to it and not be so upside down. But they knew that walking in. They're like, we did not want to do it. But at the same time, rents were high, just as high or higher. And she's like, we had to make a choice, and it was better that we invested knowing, because their realtor did tell them what could happen, and they bid that. So just informed decision making, wasn't optimal, but
that was a really good realtor. Managing expectations, is huge.
Yes,
just the fact that realtor thought about that and said, "Hey, this is what may happen," just allows the buyers to think about that process and not be blindsided with something like, "Oh, this realtor just sold us a house and now we're upside down in it." And just being really upset.
Bad news travels fast, and so if you as a realtor decided like, hey, I could get the sale on them and took that route without letting them make an informed decision. Let me just assure you, your name just became mud in the veteran community. And it will go around quickly because people ask, hey, who was your realtor? Well, I had them, but okay, no problem. Off to the next one.
Yeah, got to manage those expectations for sure. Tip number 7, foster trust and rapport. So, I mentioned in the beginning, these are going to kind of like roll right into each other.
Yeah.
And that really does build relationships, listen actively to veterans' needs and concerns. It's really about listening a whole lot and asking specific questions in order to get specific information from the veteran and their family. And that in and of itself fosters trust, I think, because if you care enough to ask about okay, what kind of job do you do? And how long do you think you're going to be in this position? And do you have kids? Will you need childcare? Does your spouse work? Where does your spouse work? Can they work remotely? Do they have to work in a brick and mortar? Just everything about their family impacts how they're going to live and where they're going to live, what kind of home they need to find. So yeah, just asking those questions and really truly listening, not just to ask them to be nice. And then you're already thinking forward about, okay, this is how much they can afford and this is how much compensation I'm going to be getting. No, like that comes at the very, very end when everybody's happy and successful and in the place that they are supposed to be in, and you have a successful closing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's it. That builds a huge amount of trust when you're like asking all those questions and you're like, hey, I just want to understand all this because then I will know the best locations for you to be in that's within your budget. That's, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think even if you, as a realtor, said, okay, this one's like right at the max of your budget. However, the reason why I selected it for you to look at was because whatever, like that extra cost might be saved because you don't have an hour commute. You don't, you have more family time. The daycares here are more affordable, whatever that is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That wraps into like all the first things you just talked about, emotional intelligence,
right,
and building the trust, and the sale will come at the end. Cause I'll tell you, good news travels just as fast. If they are happy with you, oh, let me give you my realtor. Let me give you my realtor,
Yeah.
says everything. Matter of fact, when we lived in Little Rock, my husband was stationed there. Our first real estate agent who sold us the house, we didn't know what we were doing, and we run into her, and we had this opportunity where you didn't have to pay a loan origination fee at the time, and she kind of like, that could be a red flag. There's a scam here. I go, well, we'd have no idea how we would identify it. She says, let me call. Called them, went through it, and she goes, they're legit. This is good. And then helped us go through this. Well, scroll ahead 7 years later, when we went to go sell our house, the realtor we had, nice lady, not her forte. I'll just leave it at that. And we parted ways with her at some point, and I said, I want Sheila back, and went to her. And she gave us one of her real estate agents. She had kind of moved up more, and one of her proteges. And the difference was the first real estate agent, after almost a year, had not sold our house. She sold our house within 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We were out of comps. And she told us straight up, she's like, we're out of comps. That's too high. What do you recommend? This. Okay. Boom, done. 3 weeks later, we had it sold.
Yeah.
So that is everything. Like I remembered our agent from 7 years prior, and I went and hunted her down,
Yeah.
and she did well
That's
educating her realtors, So,
yeah,
that means everything,
Yeah, absolutely. And being patient and supportive, moving right into that next one. I mean, it can be really stressful, home buying and selling, for all kinds of reasons. The service member, that's their job, and it may require moving often, but that doesn't mean, and their family knows that that's their job, but that doesn't mean that it's easy every single time, especially when you've got kids, when the spouse has a job that they love, and then that means uprooting everything and having a whole brand new community that you've got to figure out.
Well, and the spouse could be doing the whole thing. They could be doing the whole thing. They could be moving while their partner's deployed. That person could be
completely on their own.
Yeah. They could be like, hey, we're going to do the move. You come back and out process and then meet us up there. That happens. And then so now everything you just said, uprooting the family, getting kids settled, getting them situated, buying the house on top of everything.
By yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you give them that
It's a
bottle
lot.
of wine, when you say congratulate, it's being used. I'm just telling you, it's being
You
used.
deserved it. They deserved it.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So being patient and supportive. So again, yeah, that emotional intelligence on the behalf of the realtor. You know, if you're working with a spouse and they're cranky and stressed,
Don't take it
and
personally.
don't take it personally. Yeah, ask there's obviously something behind that behavior, So give a little grace and just ask some questions like, are you okay? How are you dealing with this?
Yeah. Do you need
Goes a
resources?
really long way. Yeah. Do you need resources? Yeah. How can I help
I brought you
make
a
this a little bit
coffee.
easier? You what?
I
Brought you
brought
coffee?
you,
Yeah.
you like latte? I brought
Yeah.
you a latte.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Being supportive for sure. Providing ongoing education. So, again, hosting informational sessions on real estate for veterans, just continuing education
That's really good.
because,
There's a
yeah,
saying like the best way
there's
to learn is to
so much.
teach, right?
Yeah. If you can't teach it, you don't know it. If you don't know it, you can't teach it. Same,
Right.
you've got to know it in and out in order to be able to teach it. So having those informational sessions forces you as a realtor to know that information inside and out, which makes you even better realtor. And then you can provide those workshops for veterans so that they can make really good decisions on who they work with and what's best for their situation. All right, number 10, and this is a good one, advocate for veterans' rights.
That's a really good one.
That's, yeah, on veteran housing rights and legislation, advocate for policies that benefit veterans. That goes back into VA rep. Find a VA rep chapter near you and get involved. Find out what they're doing. Be a part. Be on a committee. Make sure you've got the time to do it because it does take time. Don't commit yourself if you're not going to follow through.
Right.
But if you do have the time, absolutely be involved in any way you can to advocate for veterans because like we mentioned before, a lot of them they won't advocate for themselves. A lot of them think somebody else has it worse. So I'm just going to shut up about it. I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody else needs to step up and go, no, you really deserve this. You really need to speak up for yourself, and I'm going to help you do that.
I think I'm going to plug because we're going to be doing a third part to this, and what you just said is is part of what I think we're going to end up getting into in the third series. And there's not enough, or there's not many realtors that dabble into veteran homelessness and getting them into transitional housing. And I do 100% understand that cannot be a primary part of your portfolio because you have to put food on the table. But when you're talking about getting involved, that's a really strong area that I would love to see more realtors involved in. Because you are networked and you are engaged and you do know how all this works, and learning where the places are for transitional housing, just connecting them. You know what I mean? It's not really about a sale. It's just, hey, these are the places that are with transitional housing, or, and places that you wouldn't even know. Easter seals. I didn't even know that. They're a big one with transitional housing. I learned that years ago. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next series is homelessness and your take and what your involvement and all that good stuff. So
I'm working with a client right now actually who he needs to be out of his current house that he's sharing with a relative. He needs to be out beginning of November, and he just based on his affordability, his price point, he's not going to be able to purchase a home in this area. And so he's looking at renting. And even with renting in this area, at least, and I'm sure it's probably, most of the nation, it's required that he make 3 times the rent in order to just apply to rent a home
And
3 times.
Here's something for the realtors to kind of think about, that there are plenty of people that are living in homes that are technically homeless because they have somebody that is stepping in to support part of their rent or paying the rent. I have a veteran that technically is homeless, but because he has a family member that was super kind, and he's a very motivated person. Like, I see great things happening with him. He's in this really tough spot. That they purchased a house and working with him so he has a place. Technically, by his income, that man is homeless.
Yeah.
And, we think of homeless as just on the streets. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that definition's a lot broader.
Yeah.
So, and I know we're going to be bad. I don't want to get into it because that's the next one.
Yeah, we better shut up right now. Or it's going to go right into this one.
So just, something else to think about. But yeah, I think these tips are important. And somebody could say, oh, some of that's just general. Well, yeah, but you know what? I know a lot of people that don't have emotional intelligence. I'm just like, did you think through that? Did you really think through that?
And when it comes down to the actual conversation, when you're on the phone with a veteran who is selling their house, you're their listing agent, they're selling their house, and the buyer seemed pretty solid in the beginning, but now there's all kinds of issues with their loan, whether or not they're qualifying, stuff about their credit, having to fix something, then something else comes up. And my seller has already moved to another state and has expenses there and still paying on the home that they're trying to sell. They're stressed out.
Very.
And
and
in their mind, they're looking at a situation where this is going to fall apart and they're going to have to, pay 2 more months of mortgage on this house while they just got, into another house, and they're blowing up at you.
Right.
Because they got nobody else to blow up at.
Well, and then think of this too. There's more writing on it. So if you're, I don't know, manager of Whataburger or, Walmart, or pick a place, doesn't matter. Yeah. And you start having financial troubles, not anybody's necessarily going to know about it. In the military, you start having financial troubles and it's coming up on credit reports, and the command is getting notification, or the first sergeant's getting notification. There's some kind of, because they know you're in the military, they can make notification. Yeah. You can't play your star card or something like that comes up. Now you get a whole other level of pressure on you. You're not able to meet your financial needs. The military is going to now get involved and figure out how to alleviate that and that's not fun. When you're now like somebody's like directing your life on the personal side. So we have another layer of pressure there. They're there to help it, but
absolutely
still stressful and not fun and none of that. So
yeah.
And who knows? I've known many people. Heck, it happened to friends of mine. They were renting, and then she was deploying, and when they got back, they were PCSing. They were moving. So they're like, we want, she was like, I want to, like, we can't move yet, but I have to deploy. So the family's got to get the house ready and cleaned up to rent. So we're like, just move in with us for a month or so. And so that's what happened. They got everything cleaned up. They just lived down a couple houses down. They moved in with us for, I don't know, a month or so. She came back a week or 2 into that. They stayed with us, and then they PCSed on to their next station. Granted, we all got along and they were wonderful and it went well. Yeah. But that can be very stressful in other situations.
But what would they have done if they
would have to go, they would have had to get a hotel room and pay that. And then
huge
you got to
expense.
Get paid back. And then that doesn't always go smooth. And there's time gaps.
Yeah, you've got to have that money up front.
For other things.
Where's that money coming from? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's time gaps everywhere. And so it's hard. It's very hard. It's very stressful. So, and like you said, you're right there. So you might get a lashing, from all their stress, and just
Yeah.
If
And
you're,
so you
yeah,
know, you've got to take that mindset of, okay, this stress is coming from somewhere. They've got to release it. That's okay. You
yeah,
know, and just acknowledge, just acknowledging it and saying, I hear you. Yes, this is very stressful and I'm sorry you're having to go through this. And I get it. And here's what I'm doing my best to be able to mitigate
right.
for you. Um,
And then it's
that's
like,
what most people want, is just to be listened to and
yeah,
acknowledged,
yeah.
you know?
What can I do to
Yeah.
help? I may not be able to solve your moving needs or anything, but
Yeah.
I can handle a lot of the front running. And if you know them, you can work on their behalf and
Hmm.
build that trust, and you're able to do a lot more. So I think this
Yeah.
is good. I think these were great tips. And for all the real estate agents out there, and some of them are veterans, right? So some of them
Yeah.
do know,
Yeah.
they do have that. And if you are a veteran and a real estate agent, get some classes going, or do what Elizabeth is doing, and creating this division that specializes in veteran teachers and first responders. And if it's just your veteran world you want to create and focus in, do that. And if
Yeah.
you have curiosity, questions, and want to know more, you can reach out to Elizabeth. What's your email
Give me
address?
a call.
Yeah.
Email is elizabeth@fidelishomestn.com.
And we'll have that in the show notes, right? And they can reach out. And if you guys don't know where that is, just reach out to Coming Home Well. Everything comes to me, and I will spread the word. And Elizabeth and I talk plenty, so I'll get her the information. So this is good. Any last thoughts or?
Geez. There's just so much. Basically, just do it out of being genuine.
Yes.
That's really what it comes down to, is, if you're going to be in real estate and serve veterans, you have to be genuine about it.
Because we'll smell you.
That's right.
We will
They'll
smell
sniff
you
you out 5 miles away.
And it's way worse if you're a veteran pulling that stuff. Like, just, you be done.
Yeah.
Don't.
Just
Don't.
do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not, if you're not, just maybe find a different niche.
Simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The money's going to come. It's going to.
Yes. There's plenty of houses out there. There's plenty of clients.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are being genuine. Those are the ones that are going to be pretty successful, and do their best. So, yeah. And I said, if you have questions, reach out, right? Ask questions to other people. Elizabeth gave you a whole listing of ways to get involved. I think that's probably the best thing. Get involved in your area.
Yeah.
And I think this is good.
Thank you so much, Donna.
Thank you.
This has been awesome.
All right, everybody. It was another awesome session. And as you know, Beyond the Frontline is actually part of a network of podcasts that's under Coming Home Well. And recently, Coming Home Well, actually February this year, we started the Coming Home Well radio stream. That's 24/7. That's music. All our podcasts are on there, various shows, all geared towards veterans and those that stand behind the uniform. And that includes first responders too. We really do feel like we resonate with them quite a bit. And so all of this is for you guys. We encourage you guys to check it out. You can go to cominghomewell.com, look under radio stream at the top, and you'll be able to listen live. You can also download the app on Google or Apple, and you can listen in your car. And if you want to see all of our podcasts, go to cominghomewell.com again and look under podcasts, and you can see our entire network of podcasts. We love that you guys listen, share. I think the cool term is smash the button, all those good things. We want you guys to engage. We are here for you. So from all of us here at Beyond the Front Line and our parent Coming Home Well, we hope you have an awesome week.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Front Line, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well.